Chapter 12. Although the merchants on the street were all ordinary people, at this moment, they actually burst out with a jaw-dropping fighting strength. These merchants had more or less been extorted of their money, and they hated such people the most. Now that they had a target to vent their anger on, how could they be lenient? Especially the waiter of his rice company. He threw 2 cloth bags at the 2 men's heads, 1 for each person, and beat them up violently. At this time, the crowd beat them up even more fiercely. Since the 2 men couldn't see who was beating them, they naturally didn't have to worry about being punished later. There was strength in numbers, and Yang Kai only put on a show. Before he could do anything, he was squeezed out by the merchants. After a long time, the merchants gradually stopped, leaving only the 2 men curled up on the ground and wailing. The cloth bags covering their heads were also sent flying. Sassafras looked inside and cursed in his heart. The soles of his feet were cramping. The 2 tall and sturdy men, who were originally extremely tall and sturdy, had now lost their noses and eyes. Their faces were also swollen like a pig's head. They were almost beaten to the point that even their own mothers wouldn't recognize them. The reason why this happened was because these 2 men didn't have much strength. Although they had swords at their waist, it was just for show. If they were really experts, why would they care about the attacks of these ordinary people? But then again, why would a real expert do such a dirty thing? After beating these 2 men, the merchants all felt that they had vented their anger, but they still gathered at the side and refused to leave. The 2 men felt that the crowd was not looking good, and they were terrified. One of them reached out his trembling hand to Sassafras and weakly shouted, "Sue!" Sassafras's face changed greatly, and he roared, "What do you mean by soft? Do you want me to give you some?" Yang Kai saw this and laughed in his heart. He walked forward and said loudly, "These 2 despicable people, I don't know how many merchants they have harmed with this method, forcing people to break up their families. It's really abominable." Yang Kai's words were a bit exaggerated, but the people present were all merchants, and for a moment, they felt a sense of sympathy. The waiter of his rice company even spat, "Bah, stinky things that deserve to die, how dare you come to our rice company and behave so atrociously?" The waiter was just venting his anger, but who would have thought that Kai Yang would immediately follow up, "This kind of person really deserves to die. This junior brother, why don't you and I each kill one of them? That way, they won't be able to cause any more trouble in the future. It would be a form of justice for the heavens." As soon as he said this, everyone was shocked, and the 2 men who fell to the ground had cold sweat on their foreheads. They looked at Yang Kai in horror. They never thought that this thin young man would have such a ruthless heart. Sassafras stared at Yang Kai to see if he was joking, but Yang Kai's face was serious, and it was obvious that he was serious. To be honest, although these 2 men were abominable, they did not deserve to die. Yang Kai's words were undoubtedly too cruel. Sassafras stammered, "Brother, this is too much, isn't it?" "Too much?" Yang Kai shook his head. "If they succeed today, then I'm afraid that Boss He's Rice Company will go bankrupt. Once Boss He's Rice Company goes bankrupt, how will his family make a living? This is forcing people into a desperate situation. How is it too much to kill them? You must know that a person has to pay a price for everything he does." Originally, when the merchants heard Yang Kai's suggestion to kill, they were a little reluctant. But after hearing these words, they felt that it was somewhat reasonable, and for a moment, they did not know what to do. But anyway, even if they wanted to kill, they did not need to do it, so everyone just watched. Only Boss He wanted to open his mouth to speak, but Yang Kai stopped him with a look. But even so, you can't just casually kill people." Sassafras was really anxious. He never thought that this brother in front of him would be so cruel and merciless. His original plan was to let these 2 men come out and slander Boss He, and then he would solve the problem himself. In this way, Boss He would be grateful to him, and his purpose would be achieved. However, he didn't expect that a cruel senior brother would jump out and want to kill him at every turn. This was very bad. Sassafras could clearly see that the 2 men on the ground were looking at him with pleading eyes, hoping that he could save them. There was even a hint of threat in those eyes. How could Sassafras not understand their meaning? We are all grasshoppers tied to the same rope. If we don't have a good time, you won't have a good time either. Yes, that's the kind of eyes. At this time, Yang Kai smiled and said, Junior brother, scholars use literature to mess with the law, and chivalrous people use martial arts to violate the law. In our generation of Jianghu, which one of us has not killed a few people? Could it be that junior brother can't do it? Do you know each other? So that's why you don't want to kill them? Sassafras' heart skipped a beat. He suddenly turned his head to look at Yang Kai, only to see that he was looking at him with a mischievous smile. Brother, what do you mean? Sassafras's face turned cold. He thought to himself, could it be that his plan was seen through? But from start to finish, he didn't reveal any flaws. How could he be seen through? He didn't know that Yang Kai was only able to see through it because of an unintentional glance. All of this was really a coincidence. If it wasn't for that glance, Yang Kai would have been fooled today. Boss, he was a smart person. He could tell that Yang Kai was implying something. He couldn't help but ask suspiciously, little brother, what are you singing about? Yang Kai seemed to be targeting Sassafras. How could boss he not see it? Yang Kai shook his head and didn't answer. He didn't point it out. He just continued to look at Sassafras. Junior brother, I see that you are a courageous person, but today, you are doing justice for the heavens. Why are you hesitating? What's more, you have brother with you. What are you afraid of? What am I afraid of? Sassafras laughed, his face twitching a little, as if he was talking to himself. What am I afraid of? Isn't it just killing a person? Who hasn't killed before? It was as if admitting that he had never killed before would make him lower his head in front of Yang Kai. Sassafras was still a young man after all. After being provoked by Yang Kai, he couldn't get out of this situation. Sassafras hardened his heart. He looked at the two men on the ground with a murderous look. When the two men met Sassafras's eyes, they knew that things were going to be bad. This kid had been fooled by others. He was already unconscious. Junior brother, let's go. Yang Kai continued fanning the flames. Sassafras panted heavily. He slowly nodded his head. When the two men saw this, they immediately knew that the situation was not good. Their lives were in danger. How could the man who was helping the two men just now hold back? He immediately jumped up, pointed at Sassafras's nose and said, Sassafras, you treacherous bastard, we agreed to let us brothers come to his rice store to cause trouble, then you would come to help boss he out of this situation to gain his favor. Now you want to make a move on my brother? You're worse than a pig or a dog. You're trash that grew up in a pile of trash. Bullsh *T. Sassafras was humiliated into anger after being exposed in front of everyone. The man sneered, but he didn't expect that the wound on his face would be affected. He couldn't help but let out a cry and covered his mouth. He sucked in a breath of cold air and said, Ladies and gentlemen, today my brother came to his rice store to cause trouble. It was all this kid's idea. He had his eyes on Bossie's daughter, but she didn't like him, so he came up with this idea. Chapter 13. These words caused an uproar. Countless people immediately turned to look at Sassafras, their eyes full of disbelief. So that's how it is. Yang Kai suddenly realized. He had been trying to guess what Sassafras's purpose was, but he could only think of two possibilities. One was for profit and the other was for fame. But he didn't think that he had guessed wrong. He was actually after beauty. Yang Kai had seen Bossie's daughter before. The little girl was very pretty, and although she wasn't a beauty that could cause the downfall of a country, she was still a pretty girl. She had delicate features and a slim figure. She was only 14 years old this year, and was a famous beauty in Black Plum Town. Who would have thought that such a young girl would be targeted by Sassafras? This was why the rice store had attracted such trouble. Don't talk nonsense. Sassafras's face was extremely red, and he still wanted to quibble. The man continued to sneer and said, I'm not talking nonsense. Although the two of us have a bad character and often do things to blackmail people, we can't do things like slandering other people by poisoning the rice and cutting off other people's path to wealth. You must know that all of you are our parents. Cutting off other people's path to wealth is equivalent to cutting off our own path to survival. How could I do such a thing? All of this was instigated by this little brat. These words were said with sincerity, making the group of people laugh. Yang Kai timely asked, after this matter, how much did he promise to give you? 50 taels of silver. The big man replied. 50 taels, that's a lot. Yang Kai nodded gently. After listening for a long time, boss he naturally understood the whole story. He immediately glared at Sassafras and said with disdain, "You despicable villain, actually using such dirty means. How could my daughter like you? High Heaven Pavilion actually produced such a scum like you. It's simply ruining High Heaven Pavilion's reputation. You have such a good appearance, but your character can't even compare to little brother Yang's. Sure enough, one square of rice can raise 100 different kinds of people. I feel ashamed for your parents." The merchants also scolded Sassafras with disdain for his despicable actions. Sassafras's face turned green and red. He knew that after today he would have to cover his face when he came to Black Plum Town again. And the source of this disaster, in front of him, was this brother. If it wasn't for him, he would definitely be able to win the favor of Boss He today. If he had more contacts in the future, it would be more convenient for him to interact with the daughter of the He family. With the reputation of being a hero, he would be able to enjoy the benefits of being in a favorable position. He might even be able to get the beauty back. But now, all of this had gone up in smoke. Not only had the plan failed, but his reputation had also been ruined. "Guess." Yang Kai winked at him. Sassafras took a deep breath and said, "Even if you don't say it, I will know your identity. You've been here for more than 3 years, yet you still haven't broken through to the tempered body stage. You must be a trial disciple. There are less than 10 trial disciples in High Heaven Pavilion. Just you wait, I will find you to settle this account." After saying that, he turned around and walked out. After all, Sumu had some kung fu skills. Even if someone tried to stop him, he was pushed away by him. Then he walked out of the empty space and left leisurely. After Sumu left, everyone remembered the 2 men who had been beaten into a pig's head. But where were they on the scene? They had secretly run away when Yang Kai and Sassafras were confronting each other. This farce came to an end, but Yang Kai's eyes were like torches. He saw through this trick and made the merchants praise him. Especially Boss He was very grateful to Yang Kai. The young waiter also looked at Yang Kai with a look of worship. The crowd gradually dispersed, and the lady boss came over. She held Yang Kai's hand and didn't let go. The more she looked at him, the more she liked him. Boss He showed a worried expression. "Nephew Yang, today you offended Sassafras. I'm afraid you will have some trouble in the future." After today's matter, Boss He's address of Yang Kai had become more intimate. "I'm not afraid." Yang Kai smiled. "The sect has its own rules. Even if he hates me, he can't do anything to me." "That may be the case, but you must be careful, nephew. If today's matter brings any harm to my nephew, then as your uncle, I will feel uneasy. I will be careful." Yang Kai comforted him. The He couple was very grateful to Yang Kai for his help today and insisted that he stay for dinner. Originally, Yang Kai wanted to agree, but the lady boss scared him away. "Little Yang, are your parents here? Where do you live? Are you married this year?" Looking at her attitude, the lady boss wanted to be promoted to become his mother-in-law. Yang Kai vaguely replied and quickly left. Before leaving, he carried a big bag of white rice, far more than what he could buy with 10 silvers. Now, he didn't have to worry about food for a month. Originally, Yang Kai was worried that Sassafras would ambush him on the road. After all, although Sassafras looked handsome, he was narrow-minded and treacherous. Ambushing him wasn't impossible. But when Yang Kai returned to High Heaven Pavilion, he didn't appear. Thinking about it carefully, Sassafras didn't ambush him. Although many of High Heaven Pavilion's disciples died during the internal challenges, the rules of the sect forbade them from killing fellow disciples for no reason, especially outside of the sect. If he dared to ambush him outside of High Heaven Pavilion and the matter was exposed, Sassafras himself would be in big trouble. If he wanted to deal with him, he would definitely make a fuss during the internal challenges. As for whether or not he could find out his identity, there was no doubt about that. High Heaven Pavilion's trial disciples were few in number, so even if Sassafras didn't know him before, he could casually ask and find out who he was. Yang Kai couldn't see through this person's true strength, but he was sure that he was at the tempered body stage. He just didn't know what stage of the tempered body stage he was at. It seemed that he had to hurry up and cultivate, otherwise he wouldn't be able to stay in High Heaven Pavilion. With his mind preoccupied, Yang Kai hurriedly returned to his small room and rested for a while before beginning to cultivate. At this time, he was no longer able to cultivate the tempered body record, but he could still cultivate the basic martial arts of High Heaven Pavilion. These basic martial arts were used to temper the body. External martial arts consume the user's physical strength in order to achieve the goal of tempering the body. For example, when Yang Kai was challenged, the long fist and whip kick were these basic martial arts. The long fist and whip kick weren't considered martial arts, so they couldn't be considered real martial arts. They could only be considered basic martial arts. These basic martial arts were a must-have for every sect and family. On the left side of Yang Kai's small room, there was an open space. There was a wooden dummy that was as tall as a person. This was something he had made himself. The material he used was a 100-year-old locust tree. Its texture was very hard, so it was perfect for cultivation. This wooden dummy was full of holes and even had faint traces of blood. These were the traces left behind by Yang Kai's daily cultivation. Getting into a fighting stance, Yang Kai began to hit the wooden dummy. Every punch was full of strength, and every kick was as fast as the wind. The wooden dummy was hit until it swayed and a series of banging sounds could be heard. However, after cultivating for a short while, Yang Kai felt that something was wrong. The strength of his punches and kicks today seemed to be much stronger than before. From the way the wooden dummy swayed and the muffled sounds it made, it could be clearly compared. Moreover, with the passage of time, under his flesh and blood, a warm and numb feeling could be felt. This was clearly a feeling coming from his meridians. The feeling of qi that he had felt in the morning was gradually becoming clearer, stirring up within his body. Starting from the fourth stage of tempered body, the feeling of qi was produced, and the meridians within his body could be tempered. This warm and numb feeling was the movement of his meridians opening up. Chapter 14. When it was time to light the lantern, Yang Kai reluctantly stopped. After a long period of punching and kicking, not only did he not feel tired, but he was also full of energy. Ever since he obtained the unyielding golden skeleton, his physical strength seemed to have improved a lot. Today, he walked 20 miles without feeling tired, and carrying a big bag of rice was as light as a feather. Perhaps only when he practiced the tempered body technique would he truly feel the pressure. Thinking about the feeling of practicing the tempered body technique this morning, Yang Kai couldn't help but shiver. The feeling of heaven and earth pressing down on his body was very uncomfortable. However, with pressure, there was progress. Now that he didn't even feel the pressure, how could he cultivate? A person's potential was forced out, and a cultivator's growth was even more so. Step by step, they would force their potential to exceed their own limits. This way, their strength would be able to increase. But now that he had punched and kicked so many times, he didn't feel the slightest bit tired. How could he reach his limit, so how could he force out his potential? This was difficult. Yang Kai was also a bit depressed. Obtaining the unyielding golden skeleton was indeed a great thing, but with its strong recovery ability, he could no longer cultivate the foundation techniques of soaring cloud. Could it be that he could only cultivate for half an hour every day before sunrise? A full 24 hours a day, if he only cultivated for half an hour, then what would he do with the rest of the time? Sleep with his head covered? Absolutely not. Yang Kai rejected this idea without even thinking about it. While he was absent-mindedly cooking, Yang Kai was also thinking about how to make himself feel the pressure. If other people knew about this, they probably wouldn't know whether to laugh or cry. Other cultivators would be eager to relax on their path of cultivation, but Yang Kai was looking for trouble. After thinking about it, he still couldn't think of a good idea. The main reason was that his current financial situation could not keep up. Tempering body stage cultivation could be aided by many medicinal pills. Aside from medicinal pills, there were also other external methods. However, the root of all these was one word: money. In Soaring Cloud, money meant contribution points. Poor Yang Kai only had 12 contribution points. He had the will but not the strength. After the rice was cooked, Yang Kai ate a few bowls. There were no side dishes, so he just ate them. However, Yang Kai was already very satisfied. This was the only meal he had eaten in recent days. After the meal, Yang Kai didn't cultivate. Instead, he went straight to take a bath before lying down on the bed. Continuing to cultivate would only yield half the results with twice the effort. It was better to think of a solution. After all, sharpening the axe would not delay the work of chopping firewood. Thinking about this, Kai Yang suddenly thought of something and summoned out the wordless black book. Yang Kai had more or less figured out the name of this black book. Every page of the book was sealed with something. As long as his strength reached a certain level, he could summon it. The unyielding golden skeleton on the first page was the foundation, and also the source. The second page was the body tempering chapter. This was the cultivation chapter for the unyielding golden skeleton. He didn't know what was on the third page because when he looked at it last night, he couldn't see anything. This was definitely related to his own strength. Now that the first and second pages were empty, Yang Kai carefully studied them for a long time but still couldn't find anything. However, when he inadvertently turned to the third page, his eyes were in a trance. HM? Yang Kai frowned and stared at the third page. Almost in an instant, the third page flashed with a golden light and countless golden shadows jumped out, directly jumping into Yang Kai's mind. Immediately, a vortex appeared on the third page, and from the vortex rose an antique incense burner. This change made Yang Kai a little absent-minded, but when he understood, he was overjoyed. Right? Didn't he break through to body tempering stage 4th stage this morning? Last night he couldn't see the mysteries of the third page, so why didn't he try after breaking through today? Although it was only a difference of 1 level, it was this difference that hindered him from prying into the third page. After understanding this point, Yang Kai couldn't help but feel a little regretful. If he had looked at it this morning, perhaps he wouldn't have to waste time thinking about it now. Suppressing the excitement in his heart, Yang Kai took the incense burner in his hand and carefully examined it. This incense burner wasn't big, and looked like something ordinary people used to burn incense. However, it was in a semi-closed state, with a lid on the mouth and a few small holes on the lid. It was antique, but not outstanding, and no matter where it was placed, it wouldn't attract anyone's attention. Yang Kai lightly sniffed and found that this thing didn't have a smell, and it wasn't heavy. What is this for? Yang Kai couldn't understand for a while, so he could only close his eyes and concentrate, looking at the information that had just entered his mind. After a short while, Yang Kai opened his eyes with a strange expression. According to the information that Yang Kai received, this incense burner was actually to help him cultivate. However, the incense burner itself didn't have any use, but needed to be added to it to burn a strange fragrance, and this strange fragrance was something that could help him cultivate. At different realms, the herbs that needed to be added to the incense burner were different. What made Yang Kai a little suspicious was that the herbs that were suitable for his realm were the 3-leaved chaos spirit flower and the dead Jedi tree grass. According to what Yang Kai knew, these 2 herbs weren't very valuable, but they were a little rare. Moreover, they had a bit of poison, and although the poison wasn't very strong, if one inhaled the medicinal properties of these 2 herbs for a long time, it would be harmful to the person. Were these 2 herbs really helpful to his cultivation? The contribution hall definitely had these 2 herbs, but with Old Man Meng's character of taking advantage of every opportunity, the price would definitely not be cheap. Moreover, Yang Kai didn't have many contribution points, so how could he squander them? Thus, he could only think of a way to find these 2 herbs. Fortunately, the Black Wind Mountain range wasn't far from Soaring Cloud, and Yang Kai had gone in and out many times to hunt, so he was familiar with it. Perhaps there would be some herbs there. Tomorrow he would enter the mountain. After making up his mind, Yang Kai's worries disappeared, and he quickly fell into a deep sleep. Before going to sleep, Yang Kai purposely checked the 4th page of the wordless black book, so as to avoid an embarrassing situation like today. However, there was no movement on the 4th page, probably because his tempered body 4th layer strength was not enough to pry into it. The next day, Yang Kai woke up early in the morning. Practicing the tempered body technique yesterday had greatly benefited him, so he was naturally hungry for more. Moreover, he was not a lazy person. Taking advantage of the purple chi coming from the east, he slowly began to practice the tempered body technique, which contained the principles of heaven and earth. Although his cultivation was a level higher than yesterday, he didn't make much progress in using the body tempering technique today. After half an hour, he was still stuck at 120. Instead, his body was tormented to the point that his back was aching and his bones were popping one after another, as if they were popping beans. After inhaling a mouthful of purple chi, the faint feeling of chi in his body became clearer and more solid, and his meridians seemed to have opened up quite a bit. His skin also began to exude a lot of impurities. Chapter 15. After finishing his cultivation, Yang Kai spent more than an hour to finish his work for the day, and then ran to the contribution hall. Although he had decided to go into the mountains to search for herbs, Yang Kai didn't understand much about medicine. He had only heard of the three-leaved chaos spirit flower and dead Jedi tree grass, but had never seen them before. If he really encountered them, he probably wouldn't be able to recognize them. Therefore, he had to prepare well, so that he wouldn't be embarrassed if he came here empty-handed. Yang Kai went to the contribution hall because he wanted to memorize the appearance of these two herbs. Originally, he wanted to ask Treasurer Meng to open the door and teach him about the herbs, but he didn't think that he would directly throw a booklet over. Yang Kai took a look and found that this booklet introduced the herbs. Not only did it include the medicinal effects, but it also included the growing environment of the herbs. On each page, there were illustrations, and the introduction was quite detailed. The only thing that made him feel a little regretful was that this booklet only introduced the common grade herbs, and there were no more. People's cultivation was divided into different levels, and the world's herbs, weapons, and pills were also divided into different levels. From bottom to top, they were common grade, earth grade, heaven grade, profound grade, spirit grade, and saint grade. Each level was divided into 3 grades. For example, the three-leaved chaos spirit flower and dead Jedi tree grass that Yang Kai needed were common grade low-grade herbs. Their medicinal effects were low, so their value wasn't high. After leaving the contribution hall, Yang Kai went to the General Affairs Department to ask for leave. After all, he was still the High Heaven Pavilion's little servant. Since he was going to Black Wind Mountain, he definitely wouldn't be able to return. The General Affairs Department steward didn't make things difficult for him and straightforwardly allowed him to stay for 3 days. After that, Yang Kai set off. Black Wind Mountain was only 20 li away from High Heaven Pavilion. It wasn't far, but it wasn't close either. In the past, Yang Kai often went hunting, so he was quite familiar with it. However, going into the mountains to pick herbs was a first for him. Yang Kai was also well prepared. He brought some water, a few rice balls, a spatula, and a cloth bag before setting off. Hurrying for an hour, Kai Yang arrived at the foot of Black Wind Mountain. As far as the eye could see, the pitch-black mountain forest was like a gigantic beast that stretched across the heavens and the earth, with no end in sight. The mountain was lush with verdant trees and rugged rocks. The scenery was unique and beautiful. Even the breeze that blew in Kai Yang's face made him feel refreshed. There were many ferocious beasts and birds of prey in the Black Wind Mountain. Many of these ferocious beasts and birds of prey could not be defeated by even a cultivator with a high level of cultivation. Therefore, most people who entered Black Wind Mountain would not dare to go too deep if they were not strong enough. The outer 15 kilometers was still considered a safe zone. Beyond that, it would be filled with danger. The further in one went, the more dangerous it would be. Yang Kai only wanted to find some herbs that weren't very valuable, so he naturally wouldn't go too deep, so his own safety wasn't a concern. During the 2-hour journey, Yang Kai did not idle. He had been trying to remember the herbs he had encountered before entering the Black Wind Mountain. At that time, he did not recognize them, so he did not collect them. Now that he was prepared, he could not let them go. Thinking back, Kai Yang was able to think of quite a few places. Even the herbs that he needed right now could be found in one of these places. Yang Kai was full of enthusiasm. He immediately entered the Black Wind Mountain along the familiar path. Half an hour later, a sharpened tooth grass hidden among the thorns was successfully collected. With a good start, the scattered memories in Yang Kai's mind became clearer. He followed the map and collected the herbs as he walked. By evening, Yang Kai had already collected 4 different herbs. After all, this was the periphery of the Black Wind Mountain. There were often people coming in and out, so it was difficult for herbs to grow here. Basically, as soon as they grew, they would be taken away. Therefore, although Yang Kai only collected 4 herbs, he was satisfied. These 4 herbs were not what he needed, and their grades were not high. They were only the lowest common grade, but if he took them back, he could still exchange them for some contribution points. As the sun was about to set, Yang Kai hurriedly made his way to the last location where he could remember the herbs before the sun set. This was a very strange place. The surroundings were lush with vegetation, but the place in front of him was completely empty. The area within a radius of about 30 feet was practically a dead land. Not only were there no trees, there weren't even any weeds growing. In the center of this wasteland, there were 3 stalks of grass that were fluttering in the wind. The grass was a withered yellow color. At first glance, one would think that they were about to die, but in fact, this was the original color of this herb. Seeing that the herbs were still here, Yang Kai could not help but feel relieved. He quickly ran over with a smile on his face and took a shovel to dig. Not long after, the 3 herbs were in his hands. Somewhat worried, Yang Kai took out the booklet given by Treasurer Meng and compared them. Only then did he feel relieved. These were indeed the dead Jedi tree grass. The real thing in his hands was no different from the illustration in the booklet. Even the growing environment was as described in the booklet. The dead Jedi tree grass grew in places where there were no trees, so it was quite easy to find. Basically, if there was a place in the mountain forest that became a dead land, it was definitely because of the growth of the dead Jedi tree grass. Carefully putting the 3 dead Jedi tree grass into his cloth bag, Yang Kai took out some water and rice balls and began to eat. This time, the main purpose of entering the mountain was to find the 3-leaved Chaos Spirit flower and the dead Jedi tree grass. Until now, he had only found one, and the amount was too little. He had to continue to work hard. But now that the sky was dark, it was naturally inconvenient to move, so Yang Kai decided to rest for the night and wait until dawn to continue his search. In the past, when he went hunting in the mountain, he would leave on the same day and return on the same day. Yang Kai really hadn't spent the night in the mountain, but as the saying goes, even if you haven't eaten pork, you still have seen a pig run. What to pay attention to when spending the night in the mountain, Yang Kai naturally knew. Looking for a nearby tree, Yang Kai climbed up and found a suitable and comfortable place to sit down. He closed his eyes and pretended to sleep. Unable to sleep for a while, Yang Kai summoned the wordless black book and flipped to the 3rd page. With a thought, the incense burner appeared. This was a secret that Yang Kai had inadvertently discovered. The things that came out of the black book could also be taken back. After all, the black book was made from the soul-suppressing stone. The soul-suppressing stone itself had the ability to open up a space and store things. It was not difficult to understand why the incense burner could be placed inside. The only thing that puzzled Yang Kai was that other than the incense burner, the black book could not accept other things. This made him somewhat puzzled. Could it be that the wordless black book made from the soul-suppressing stone could selectively store things? After playing with the black book for a while, Yang Kai was also tired. After all, he had walked a lot of mountain roads today, so he fell into a deep sleep. The night passed without any words. Early the next morning, Yang Kai practiced the tempered body technique for half an hour as usual. The results were good. Not only did he throw a few more punches compared to the previous 2 days, but the chi in his body also became more condensed. Yang Kai had a feeling that he was about to break through a barrier. The chi in his meridians seemed to have reached the limit, and he was only 1 step away from reaching the next level. Chapter 16. This discovery made Yang Kai excited. After cultivating in High Heaven Pavilion for 3 years, he was only at Tempered Body 3rd stage, but after obtaining the wordless black book, he broke through to Tempered Body 4th stage on the 2nd day. Now, only 2 days had passed and he was about to break through again. This cultivation speed was terrifying even for Yang Kai. Practicing the tempered body record consumed a lot of energy, so Yang Kai rested for a long time before gradually recovering. He ate the remaining rice balls and continued his journey of searching for herbs. Yesterday, he had already searched for all the herbs in his memory, so today he would have to try his luck. Fortunately, the value of these common-grade herbs was not high, so not everyone would pick them, so he still had some harvest. During the day, Yang Kai found 7 or 8 herbs, even 2 3-leaved chaos spirit flowers. This time, he finally collected all the herbs he needed for cultivation, but the quantity was somewhat lacking. Time passed quickly, and when night fell, Yang Kai was still walking in the forest. It was not that he did not want to rest, but that he was too hungry. He originally thought that he would be able to hunt some game today, but he did not think that he would not even be able to find a rabbit. He only found a few fingernail-sized wild fruits, which he ate until his teeth ached. After eating them, he felt even more hungry. If he had known earlier, he would have made more rice balls and brought them along. He really regretted it. Where was he going to find food in the middle of nowhere? Just as he was feeling embarrassed from hunger, Yang Kai suddenly saw a trace of fire in the forest in front of him. He immediately became alert and quickly walked in that direction. Those who dared to start a fire in the mountains were either inexperienced idiots or experienced veterans. The one Yang Kai had encountered this time belonged to the latter. Just as he approached the fire, he heard an angry shout, "Who is it?" At the same time, Kai Yang felt his skin tighten and a cold wind blow down his spine. Looking over, he saw 2 figures, one tall and one short, standing next to the fire, both of them looking at him with vigilance. The taller one was a sturdy man. He held a bow in his hand with an arrow nocked on it. The bowstring was already pulled back and the tip of the arrow was aimed at himself. Beside this man was a boy of about 11 or 12 years old. Although he was young, the boy's eyes were very bright. Not only did he not show the slightest bit of fear, he even seemed to be eager to try. The little boy was also holding a bow in his hand, but it was much smaller, so it shouldn't be very powerful. Although he was being pointed at by 2 fully drawn bows, Yang Kai was not the slightest bit angry. When traveling outside, one must always be on guard against people, so what they did was not a big deal. Don't be nervous. I'm just here to pick herbs, Yang Kai hurriedly said. Hearing this, the 2 men on the opposite side, one big and one small, carefully sized him up. The sturdy man slowly put down the bow in his hand and patted the small boy, indicating that he should relax. He then smiled and said, "I thought the fire had attracted some fierce beast. It was a false alarm." Sorry, sir. Yang Kai smiled awkwardly. The sturdy man was very forthright. He waved his hand and said, "Come here. The night wind is cold. It's not easy to make a living outside." Yang Kai thanked him and then went forward and sat by the fire. The sturdy man kept looking at Yang Kai. Seeing that he was thin, he couldn't help but feel some sympathy. Since they were sitting together, they naturally had to talk. During the chat, Yang Kai learned that this was a father and son. They lived at the foot of the mountain and hunted for a living. Although they were not rich, they were able to maintain food and clothing. Moreover, although the little boy looked young, he was also a veteran hunter. He had followed his father in and out of Black Wind Mountain many times. He had a lot more experience than Yang Kai. Yang Kai also introduced himself. After learning that he was a disciple of High Heaven Pavilion, the sturdy man was a little surprised. The little boy was even more curious. His bright black eyes kept looking at Yang Kai. The man said, "My boy also wanted to practice martial arts, but his aptitude was not good enough, so he was rejected. So he admires you cultivators very much." These words made Yang Kai recall his own experience in the past 3 years. He couldn't help but feel a deep sense of sympathy. He reached out and touched the child's head. While they were talking, Yang Kai's stomach failed to live up to his expectations and growled. The little boy was stunned. He suddenly smiled and then took out some dry food from his bag and handed it to Yang Kai. Yang Kai was moved, but he didn't reach out to take it. Instead, he looked at the sturdy man. The man smiled and said, "Eat it. You don't seem to have eaten anything today." Yang Kai didn't refuse. He took the dry food and wolfed it down. After chatting for a while, the 3 people went to sleep around the fire. Yang Kai didn't dare to sleep too deeply. He was always in a light state. If there was any danger in the surroundings, he would eliminate it for the father and son. It could also be considered as returning the favor. But after a night passed, nothing happened. Morning came again. Xianxia didn't wait for the father and son to wake up and quietly left. Before he left 2 herbs as a thank you gift for last night's meal. If these 2 herbs were crushed, they would have a certain healing effect. The father and son had been in the mountains for many years, so there would be a time when they could use them. The eastern purple qi overflowed, and Kai Yang practiced tempered body record for half an hour. When he finished, he inhaled a mouthful of purple qi. His meridians suddenly shook, and a warm feeling spread throughout his whole body. His sense of qi surged within his meridians. Tempered body 5th stage. Yesterday's feeling was right. He was about to break through. Today, after practicing for half an hour, he really broke through in one fell swoop. Xianxia was very happy. He was looking forward to the tempered body technique more and more. He had only obtained the tempered body a few days ago, but he had already broken through twice. This cultivation speed was simply unparalleled. This was under the condition that there was a limit to the time he could cultivate. If he could cultivate at any time, how fast would his cultivation speed be? Xianxia was a little speechless as he thought about it. However, the tempered body was only the foundation stage of a cultivator. Naturally, his cultivation speed would be faster. Later on, as his cultivation level increased, his cultivation speed would slowly slow down. After resting for a while, Xianxia continued to look for herbs. Today's harvest was not bad. He collected more than a dozen herbs and also caught a fat rabbit, so he didn't have to worry about starving. On the 3rd day, Kai Yang ventured deeper into Black Wind Mountain, reaching the outer limit of 30 li. After reaching this point, Kai Yang didn't dare to go any further. With his current strength, if he were to encounter any vicious beasts or birds of prey, he would have no choice but to flee. If he wasn't careful, he would become food for those beasts. However, although he didn't go too deep, his harvest today was much better than the previous 2 days. There were more than 20 herbs. Including the harvest of the previous 2 days, he had found nearly 40 herbs. However, the 2 herbs he needed were still very little. In 3 days he had found 40 herbs. Although they were all ordinary level, low-level herbs, his harvest was not small. If he brought them back to the sect, he could exchange them for contribution points. However, this would delay his cultivation time, so the loss outweighed the gain. Chapter 17. In the afternoon, Xianxia turned around and headed towards Ling Zhao's location. He had only taken 3 days off, so the day he set off didn't count. He had to get back before tomorrow morning, otherwise he would be punished. There was plenty of time. Xianxia estimated that he was about 100 miles away from Ling Zhao, which wasn't too far, so he should be able to get there before dark. Looking forward to the 3rd page of the wordless black book's incense burner, Xianxia was in a good mood, so his footsteps were light. But before he was halfway there, Xianxia suddenly heard a burst of roars and heart-wrenching shouts from not far away, mixed with the cry of a child. Hearing this movement, Xianxia's footsteps paused and he quickly listened carefully. A moment later, Xianxia's expression changed, and he quickly ran in the direction of the sound. He could tell that the angry roar came from the hunter he had encountered the night before, and the crying sound came from the little boy. This father and son pair must have encountered some kind of trouble, otherwise they wouldn't be so panicked. That night, Xianxia had eaten their food, so he owed them a debt of gratitude, so how could he ignore them now? As he ran, the hunter's roars became more and more desolate, while the little boy's cries gradually weakened. Xianxia's face was heavy, and he had a bad premonition in his heart. When Xianxia reached the place, he couldn't even hear the hunter's roars anymore. He could only see a dark cave entrance at the foot of a high slope. The entrance was surrounded by thick grass and sea spiders. There was a small bough on the ground, which was the weapon that the little boy had held that night. Without thinking, Xianxia quickly threw the things on his body to the ground, opened his eyes wide, and became vigilant of his surroundings. He directly rushed into the dark cave entrance. The light in the cave wasn't very bright, but he could still see things. Looking carefully, Yang Kai couldn't help but be surprised. He saw that the cave was full of spiders, and beside the cave walls and on the ground, there were layers of silvery white spiders, as thick as chopsticks, crisscrossing, layer upon layer, blocking his path. The cave was damp and dark, with water dripping from the ceiling. When Yang Kai stepped on it, he felt like the ground was sinking slightly. Holding his breath, Yang Kai walked inside. After a few steps, he saw a person almost wrapped in spider silk lying on the ground, only his face showing. It was the hunter he had encountered the night before. Yang Kai rushed forward and probed him. Discovering that the hunter had only fainted due to anger, he didn't have any serious injuries. Quickly, Yang Kai pinched the hunter's philtrum. The hunter slowly woke up, and when he saw Yang Kai, he anxiously said, "Save the child." The child was dragged inside. "I beg you, please save the child." Dragged inside? Startled, Kai Yang tried to untie Hunter in a fluster. Unfortunately, the spider silk that was wrapped around his body was extremely tough. He couldn't untie it in a short amount of time, so he could only give up for now and dive into the cave. The hunter behind him warned, "Be careful, that's a spider monster beast." Hearing the word monster beast, Yang Kai's heart thumped. A monster beast was not like an ordinary beast that could only be slaughtered. It was a real beast, and Yang Kai couldn't afford to provoke any of them. The reason why the outer 30 miles of the Black Wind Mountain was defined as a safe zone was that there was no monster beast here. But now, there was actually one here. It was really unexpected. Knowing that there was a monster beast inside, Yang Kai became more cautious. After walking for about 100 feet, he saw the hunter's son. At this moment, the little boy was tightly bound by spider silk like his father, stuck to a huge spider and suspended in midair. Next to the little boy, a huge flowerback spider was sticking out the straw in its mouth and inserting it into the little boy's arm. Strands of red blood were clearly seen flowing from the little boy's body into the spider's mouth. On the ground of the cave, various strange bones were piled up into a mountain. It seemed that the spider monster beast had hunted a lot of prey here. Kai Yang didn't have time to consider whether or not he had the ability to fight the spider. Any delay could cost the little boy his life, so he didn't say anything and rushed forward. The huge flowerback spider probably didn't expect to be disturbed at this time. While it was eating, a brute force hit from the side, and the huge spider was immediately hit with a big hole. The flowerback spider and Yang Kai flew out together, and the little boy fell to the ground. Suddenly attacked, the flowerback spider was furious. Its 8 hairy legs swung on the ground, and its eyes looked at Yang Kai. Yang Kai didn't have time to get up, and the flowerback spider pounced on him and pressed him to the ground. With a roar, Kai Yang sent out an iron fist towards the flowerback spider's mouth, causing it to stagger. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Kai Yang sent out a kick, sending the spider flying. Yang Kai rolled on the ground and half-squatted, vigilantly watching the flowerback spider's movements. After this confrontation, he calmed down a bit. This monster beast's level wasn't high. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to fight it. It was probably just a level 1 monster beast. But even if it was just a level 1 monster beast, it would be difficult for him to deal with it with his current strength. Both sides were sizing each other up. The flowerback spider wasn't anxious, but Yang Kai was a bit impatient. The little boy looked like he had lost a lot of blood, and there were signs of poisoning. If he didn't quickly deal with this, he wouldn't be able to save him. Suddenly, the flowerback spider opened its mouth, and as it breathed in and out, a bright silk thread shot out from its mouth, heading straight for Yang Kai. Yang Kai had experienced the toughness of the spider's silk before, so he naturally knew that he couldn't be trapped. He immediately rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding it. Who would have thought that the flowerback spider wouldn't even care about his attempts to avoid it? It continued to spit out spider silk in one direction. By the time Kai Yang reacted, the cave had already been separated by a giant spider, completely cutting off his escape route and trapping him inside. Is this forcing me to fight to the death? Yang Kai smiled, and the last trace of worry disappeared. The arrogance in his bones was aroused. In this situation, if he didn't kill this spider, he definitely wouldn't be able to get out. Since that was the case, then he could only fight to the death. Time was of the essence, so Yang Kai didn't have time to waste. His feet kicked off the ground, and he quickly approached the flowerback spider. Yang Kai was on guard against this move of the spiders, so how could he not avoid it? After dodging 3 consecutive spider's silk, he finally closed the distance between him and the monster beast. But before Yang Kai could punch, the flowerback spider raised one of its front legs and fiercely chiseled at him. Yang Kai raised his arm to block, and the flowerback spider's sharp front leg pierced through his arm. The pain caused Kai Yang to roar out in anger. His blood suddenly began to boil. Although blood flowed out, not only did he not feel fear or panic, instead he felt an inexplicable excitement and expectation in his heart. His bones began to creak as a warm feeling spread throughout his body. Chapter 18. Yang Kai's fist whistled through the air, hitting the left row of eyes of the flowerback spider, bursting 2 of them on the spot. The flowerback spider was horrified. What little consciousness it had left made it fear the person in front of it, who was still excited even though he was bleeding. It tried to withdraw its front leg from Yang Kai's arm, but Yang Kai tightened his muscles and held it in place. For a moment, it was unable to break free. Yang Kai's second fist whistled through the air, once again bursting 2 of the flowerback spider's eyes. The flowerback spider cried out in pain, its body continuously shrinking back, its few legs flailing around, leaving rows of wounds on Yang Kai's body. The wounds weren't deep, but there was still blood. The pain made Yang Kai more and more excited, as if his whole body was gushing with endless strength. The corner of his mouth revealed a cruel smile, and he used his uninjured fist to attack his opponent. The more he struck, the more powerful and faster he became. The flowerback spider's forehead burst open, and its body fluids splattered everywhere. Mournful cries continuously rang out. The flowerback spider was unwilling to sit still and wait for its death. It continuously spat out spider's silk from its mouthpart, which Yang Kai couldn't dodge at such a close distance. He was quickly wrapped up. But at this moment, the flowerback spider was beaten to a pulp, its entire head almost bursting open. If it wasn't for the fact that it was a monster beast and had a strong vitality, it would have died long ago. Even so, after it spat out its last spider silk, it gradually stopped struggling and finally died under Yang Kai's fist. Yang Kai didn't expect that he would actually be able to easily defeat a monster beast and even kill it. Even if it was only a level 1 monster beast, it wasn't something that a body tempering stage level 5 could easily deal with. Although his injuries weren't light, he didn't feel that it was a big deal. After confirming that the flowerback spider was completely dead, Yang Kai pulled out the front leg from his arm. The moment he pulled it out, it brought with it a spray of warm blood. With no time to check his injuries, Yang Kai quickly tore off the spider's silk tied around his body and hurriedly carried the little boy lying on the ground out. The little boy's father finally broke free from the spider's silk and was running towards them. When he saw Yang Kai running out with his son covered in blood, he quickly asked, "What happened to him?" "He lost a lot of blood and was poisoned," Yang Kai answered. Rushing out of the cave, Yang Kai put the little boy flat on the ground and ran out again. He took some herbs from the bag and put them into his mouth to chew. He also found some herbs and handed them to the hunter. "Chew them as hard as you can and then feed them to him." When the hunter heard Yang Kai's order, there was no hesitation. He quickly put the herbs into his mouth and chewed. At this moment, Yang Kai's mind was very clear. The pharmacological characteristics of these herbs appeared in his mind one by one. Which herbs could detoxify, which herbs could heal, and which herbs could stop bleeding. He was comparable to a doctor who was proficient in pharmacology. Not long after, Yang Kai took out the herbs in his mouth and smeared them on the little boy's injured arm. The hunter also fed the herbs in his mouth into the little boy's mouth. Under the nervous and expectant gaze of the 2 people, the little boy's pale face gradually had a trace of color, and his breathing was much steadier than before. The hunter's heart was finally relieved. He fell on the ground and wailed, "Fortunately, it's all right. Fortunately, it's all right." Yang Kai poured cold water on him. "It's not enough. These herbs are of the lowest grade. They can only relieve his symptoms. he must go down the mountain to find a doctor, otherwise, I'm afraid it will leave a lasting illness. The hunter listened to Yang Kai's words and immediately said, then I'll take him to find a doctor now. Don't be in a hurry. Yang Kai stopped him. Let's wait for him to calm down first. Oh, what the benefactor said is right. The hunter had suffered such a big disaster, and had long lost his backbone. Whatever Yang Kai said was what it was. After saying that, he suddenly remembered that the benefactor in front of him was also injured. He was worried. Benefactor, do you want to treat your injuries? Yang Kai waved his hand. No need. But you've lost so much blood, how can you stand it? The hunter looked at him in shock. I don't know. Yang Kai stood up and jumped. I don't know why, but I feel good. Not only did he feel good, but he was also very excited. Yang Kai guessed that all of this had something to do with his unyielding golden skeleton, but how could he explain it to the hunter? Recalling the battle just now, Yang Kai's blood boiled. This was the first time he faced a life-and-death battle, but not only did he not have the slightest fear, but he also enjoyed the feeling of blood splashing, as if all of this was a common occurrence. By the way, wait a moment, I'll be right back. Yang Kai suddenly picked up his bag and rushed into the cave again. The hunter thought that he was going to clean up the monster beast's body, but in fact, that was not the case. Although the flowerback spider was a monster beast, its body had no value, and its level was too low. Yang Kai entered the cave to pick herbs. When he was fighting with the flowerback spider, Yang Kai inadvertently found a large purple flower in the cave. At that time, he didn't have time to look carefully, but now that he thought about it, he couldn't help but feel excited. If he was not mistaken, those purple flowers were the three-leaved chaos spirit flower that he urgently needed. The three-leaved chaos spirit flower grew in damp and dark places with a lot of dead bodies, and this cave was a suitable environment for its growth. With great expectations in his heart, Yang Kai returned to the cave to take a look, and almost couldn't help but laugh out loud. People say that good people have good karma, and now it seems that this is really the case. If he didn't come to rescue the hunter and his son, how could he have encountered such a good thing? The large patch of purple flowers in front of him was indeed the three-leaved chaos spirit flower. Moreover, there were quite a number of them. Roughly counting, there were about 30 to 40 of them. The small purple flowers connected together and looked very pleasing to the eye. Yang Kai didn't hesitate, and quickly took out a shovel and put the three-leaved chaos spirit flower into his bag. After working for a while, Yang Kai was satisfied, and just as he was about to leave, he saw a dark red mushroom-like thing in the corner of the cave. Yang Kai's heart moved, and he walked forward to take a closer look. This thing was about the size of a bowl, dark red, and looked like a mushroom, but also like a Ganoderma lucidum. Yang Kai didn't recognize this thing, and there was no description of it in the booklet that Treasurer Meng gave him. Could it be some kind of rare treasure? Yang Kai rubbed his hands, and no matter what it was, he would take it back first. After all, it didn't take up much space. When Kai Yang came out of the cave, his small bag was already filled to the brim. Let's go, I will go down the mountain with you. Yang Kai said to the hunter outside. Thank you, benefactor. The hunter was very grateful, and he knew that Yang Kai was afraid that they would be in danger, so he wanted to follow them. It's just on the way, no need to thank me. Yang Kai said, and hurriedly ran down the mountain with the hunter. They didn't arrive at Black Plum Town until dusk and quickly found a medical center in town. Chapter 19. After settling the little boy down, Yang Kai was not in a hurry to leave. After all, the little boy had given him some food that night, so he had to wait for him to wake up before he could leave. The hunter was very nervous as he rushed in and out of the clinic. Not long after, he was kicked out by the doctor who thought he was too noisy. Dr. Chu said that fortunately it was dealt with in time, otherwise my son would have really lost his life. Benefactor, Xianxia, am unable to repay your kindness. In this life, I will be your slave at your beck and call. Finished speaking, the hunter knelt down in front of Yang Kai. Yang Kai didn't help him up, he just smiled and said, Brother Zhang, a man has gold under his knees. You have already repaid your kindness, so you don't need to worry about it in the future. I also ate your son's food, so I still owe you. After he finished speaking, he helped the hunter up. Xianxia was moved. He cried, "Benefactor, you are really a good person." Just as they were talking, the doctor came out and said to Xianxia, "There is no big problem, no need to worry. However, he has lost a lot of blood, so I am afraid he will sleep for a while. When he wakes up, he will be fine." Hearing this, Yang Kai and Zhang Shan felt relieved. As soon as his mind relaxed, Yang Kai felt a little tired. Today was really too exciting. He had also suffered a lot of injuries and lost a lot of blood. Although he was excited at the time, there was still some damage to his body. As soon as he relaxed, he fell asleep and slept until dawn. Early morning, High Heaven Pavilion. Many disciples had woken up early in the morning. They were all excited and gathered together, looking forward to a certain place. Their eager eyes, craned necks, and restless mood made them look like a group of women waiting at home for their husbands who had finally returned after so many years. They were so focused and full of expectation. As time passed, more and more people gathered here. Everyone cast their gazes in the same direction. That direction was the location of Yang Kai's hut. Today, they could challenge Yang Kai again. How could any of the High Heaven Pavilion disciples let go of these contribution points that were practically free of charge? Some people couldn't bear it and sympathized with Yang Kai's experience. After all, every 5 days he would be beaten up. It was really too miserable. But thinking about it carefully, their sympathy was useless. There were so many people who wanted to challenge Yang Kai. If they didn't challenge Yang Kai, someone else would. In any case, he was going to be beaten up anyway, so they might as well do it themselves. Thinking about it, they decided to try their luck. If he chooses me, I will definitely go easy on him so that he won't feel pain. Many people found excuses for themselves in their hearts. Did he sleep with her? Did he leave High Heaven Pavilion already? Impossible, you know Yang Kai's temper. Even if you beat him to death, he wouldn't leave. If he wanted to leave, he would have left a few months ago when he was demoted to a trial disciple. Why would he wait until now? Everyone present was talking about it, but no one knew that Yang Kai had gone to Black Wind Mountain a few days ago and hadn't returned yet. This wasn't surprising. Yang Kai usually didn't interact with others, so naturally no one paid attention to his whereabouts. While the commotion was going on, a group of people walked over from not far away. The person in the lead had a jade-like face and was very handsome. He was a handsome young man, but for some reason, this young man had a gloomy expression on his face at this moment. As he walked, he gritted his teeth and cursed someone. Beside this young man, there were many High Heaven Pavilion disciples. They surrounded him like stars around the moon, making him stand out from the crowd. Arriving here and seeing so many people gathered, the young man leading the group showed a displeased expression and asked, "What's going on? Why are there so many people here?" A person next to him quickly stepped forward and whispered, "Young Master Su, today is the day we can challenge Yang Kai, so our brothers are all gathered here to wait for contribution points." The young man called Young Master Su raised his eyebrows and laughed. "It looks like our brother Yang is having a hard time." His words were full of schadenfreude and happiness. And he's basically beaten every 5 days. Not only that, he's knocked unconscious. The person who spoke earlier explained. Young Master Su smiled again, I don't know why, but Young Master's resentment has been vented a lot. But this isn't enough. You must drive him out of High Heaven Pavilion. As long as he's not a High Heaven Pavilion disciple, I can play with him however I want. Young Master Su, you're right. This brat dares to ruin your business in Black Plum Town. He really doesn't know how many eyes Young Master Su has. He doesn't even know who Young Master Su is. This flattery made Young Master Su feel very comfortable and he nodded again and again. Young Master Su was the one Yang Kai had met in Black Plum Town, Sassafras. On that day, Sassafras and the 2 big men had been exposed by Yang Kai and had left in anger. After returning to High Heaven Pavilion, Young Master Su began to inquire about Yang Kai's identity. In the end, he had some means and channels, so in less than a day he knew Yang Kai's details. However, under the sect's iron rules, it was not convenient for him to make a move directly, so he had waited until today to bring people to Xianxia. He hadn't expected that there would be so many people gathered here, and all of them were staring at Xianxia. This made Sassafras somewhat unhappy, so he waved his hand and said, "Tell them to disperse. Tell them that Xianxia is mine today." These words were spoken as if Xianxia was a prostitute who sold her body. One of the people behind him quickly stepped forward and cupped his fists to the crowd. "Brothers and sisters, today's battle with Xianxia has been decided by Sassafras, so I ask that everyone make way for us. I'm sorry for troubling everyone to wait here, so please forgive me." As soon as these words came out, many people were alarmed and looked towards Sassafras. Some of the people who didn't understand shouted, "Why? Xianxia always uses a broom to choose his opponent, so why should he let you in? Isn't there a first-come first-served rule?" As soon as his voice fell, someone pulled him and whispered, "That's Sassafras. Sassafras, do you know who he is?" This person hadn't been in the sect for long, so he really didn't know. "Stupid, our High Heaven Pavilion has an elder surnamed Su, and one of the 10 core disciples is also surnamed Su. Who do you think he is?" Although his words weren't clear, the listener wasn't a fool, so he immediately shut up. He was just an ordinary disciple, so when he heard that Sassafras had such a big backer, how could he dare to be noisy? Winning against Xianxia won't give you many contribution points, so it's not worth offending him. Yes, yes, yes. The listener was shocked and broke out in a cold sweat. Chapter 20. Sassafras looked at the crowd's reaction with satisfaction and snorted in disdain. Although Sassafras had already decided to challenge Xianxia today, the people gathered here did not leave. They did not know how Xianxia had offended Sassafras, so they naturally wanted to stay and watch the show. After waiting for a while, Xianxia was still nowhere to be seen. Sassafras could not hold it in any longer and asked, "Where is he?" "I don't know. He usually comes out to sweep the floor, but I don't know why he's not here today." "Young Master Su, do you want to take a look at where he lives?" Sassafras thought for a while and nodded, "Sure. He's just a little boy sweeping the floor. How dare he make me wait? I'll teach him a lesson later." It was not a secret where Xianxia lived, so the people around Sassafras led the way. The people who were watching the show also followed them. After a while, the group of people arrived at Xianxia's hut. Looking at the shabby wooden hut, Sassafras felt refreshed for no reason. He pointed at the hut and asked, "That kid lives here?" "Young Master Su, Xianxia is a trial disciple. He has to take care of his own food, clothing, shelter, and transportation. The sect will not care about him. This is probably a hut that he built himself." Good, good, good. Sassafras was very happy. He was in a good mood when he thought about how Xianxia would become a drowned rat on a rainy day. Sassafras coughed lightly and stopped smiling. He walked up to the hut and shouted, "Xianxia, get your ass out here and die." His shout was like a bell, but it was full of hatred. It was full of blood and tears. The people who heard it trembled in their hearts. They secretly thought that the grudge between Xianxia and Sassafras was not small. Sassafras was awe-inspiring. After shouting, he stared at the door of the wooden house with anticipation. He imagined the scene of Xianxia running out of the house and begging for mercy. The more he thought about it, the more proud he became. But after waiting for a long time, there was no movement in the room. Sassafras was a little embarrassed and he roared again, "Xianxia, if you know what's good for you, you'd better come out now. Otherwise, we're going to charge in." There was still no movement. Sassafras also felt that something was wrong. If Xianxia was really inside, he should be breathing. Could it be that he wasn't inside? Tilting his head, Sassafras signaled one of his men with his eyes. The man quickly rushed out, kicked open the door of the wooden hut, and ran inside. Not long after, the man ran out again and said to Sassafras, "Young Master Su, there's no one inside, and there's some dust." It seems that the kid knew that he was in trouble and ran away a few days ago. Ran away? Sassafras almost vomited blood. He had been preparing for this for a few days, And he even brought so many people with him to keep up appearances that Yang Kai actually ran away. It was as if he had thrown an aggressive punch, but it landed on cotton. Sassafras felt an indescribable sense of helplessness and depression. Speaking of which, I haven't seen Yang Kai in the past few days. A wise man submits to circumstances. Yang Kai offended Sassafras. He probably knew that he was in trouble, so he left the sect. No wonder he didn't appear until now. Sigh, now that Yang Kai is gone, there won't be any free contribution points in the future. The onlookers whispered, but not a single word escaped Sassafras' ears. Although he was pleased with himself, Sassafras was still unhappy that he couldn't get his revenge. After thinking for a while with a gloomy face, Sassafras had to accept this reality. He said angrily, "That kid got lucky. But if I don't get my revenge, I won't be able to get rid of the hatred in my heart. Burn this broken house down." Everyone was shocked. Even the people Sassafras brought were hesitant. One of them said, "Young Master Su, it's not good to set fire to the sect, right? What are you afraid of?" Sassafras glared. "Even if the sky falls, I'll hold it up. Besides, this isn't the sect's property. What's the big deal if it's burned down? This is a broken house, and it's in the eyes of the young master." Hearing this, everyone's worries were dispelled. After all, young Master Su had someone backing him up. Burning down a broken house wasn't a big deal. Immediately, someone went to get the fire and dried grass. After a while, everything was ready. Sassafras had a ferocious look on his face as he held a torch that he made on the spot. The light from the burning flame distorted his face. "Yang Kai, don't let me see you again. Otherwise, I'll make you wish you were dead." Sassafras gritted his teeth and cursed. Just as he was about to throw the torch in his hand into the wooden house, he smelled blood beside him. Someone patted him on the shoulder and asked, "What are you doing?" Sassafras didn't even think and answered, "I'm burning down the house." "Why are you burning down my house?" The voice of the person was a little annoyed. "Your house?" Sassafras pursed his lips and turned his head to look at the person. As soon as he saw the person, Sassafras immediately jumped a few steps to the side like a rabbit. His movements were unbelievably agile, and he put on a defensive posture. His face was full of panic, and his hair stood on end. It was because the appearance of the person was too horrifying. His clothes were tattered, and his hair was messy like weeds. Not only that, there were countless bloodstains on his body, and his clothes were stained with blood. There was a small bag on his shoulder, and the bag was bulging. No one knew what was inside. A light breeze blew, and this person's tattered pants were messy in the wind, revealing the strong leg hair on his legs. What Sassafras couldn't stand the most was the smell of this person. It was a mixture of blood and sweat. It was nauseating, and he wouldn't be able to eat for 3 days. This appearance, this style, it was really weird. If he were to hold a broken bowl in his hand, he would look like a beggar who ate from hundreds of families. But why did he look so familiar? Sassafras carefully looked at the person, and the more he looked, the more confused he became. After thinking for a while, he suddenly slapped his thigh and said, "Yang Kai. Who else could it be but Yang Kai?" Although his appearance was different, and his face was full of dirt, how could Sassafras, who had a grudge against Yang Kai, not recognize him? How could he not recognize him? Yang Kai also recognized Sassafras. He grinned, revealing his white fangs, and said, "Isn't this the junior brother who showed his prowess in Black Plum Town?" Sassafras's face turned green and red at the ridicule. He jumped and said, "Yang Kai, you didn't take the road to heaven, but you barged into hell where there was no door. You're going to die today. Are you looking for trouble with me?" Yang Kai frowned. "Nonsense," Sassafras proudly said. "Do you think I'm here to visit you? If you're looking for trouble with me, just come find me." "Why did you burn my house?" Yang Kai asked. Sassafras quickly threw away the torch and rushed forward to stomp on it. It was as if he was stomping on Yang Kai himself. He felt extremely relieved, and only after a long time did he extinguish the torch. After this delay, the onlookers finally came to their senses. Only now did they know that Yang Kai didn't leave Sky Tower because he was afraid of sassafras, but because he went out to do something. But what did he do to make himself so miserable? Wasn't there too much blood? There were also scratches on his clothes. It was obvious that they were made by some kind of sharp weapon. Did he fight with someone? And was it a life and death battle? Chapter 21. These wounds and bloodstains were the result of the battle with the flowerback spiders. He didn't have the time to take care of them, and he had to find a doctor for the little boy when he returned to Black Plum Town. Naturally, it was delayed. After that, Yang Kai fell asleep. He only woke up this morning, and the little boy was already awake. Yang Kai felt relieved and hurried back to the sect. From afar, he saw a group of people surrounding his wooden house. Some of them were even holding torches. It looked like they were going to burn down his house. How could Yang Kai allow that? Naturally, he walked over and asked. He didn't expect that it was Sassafras who was looking for trouble with him. Sassafras, who had failed to set the house on fire, didn't feel guilty at all. Instead, he became even more excited. He pointed at Yang Kai and said, "Yang Kai, don't say that I didn't give you a chance. If you can, wait a moment." Yang Kai raised his hand and walked into the house. "Hey!" Sassafras swallowed his words. He felt like he had eaten a fly, and it was the kind that flew up from fresh feces. It was extremely uncomfortable. "Young Master Su, this guy is too disrespectful." One of Sassafras's subordinates felt that it was unfair. Sassafras sneered, "Beat him up hard later. I heard that this guy never admits defeat, so don't go easy on him. Today, we must let him know the consequences of offending me." Yang Kai walked into the house and took off the small bag on his shoulder. This bag of herbs was the harvest of his 3 days of hard work. Yang Kai was a little worried if he didn't put it down first. After putting the bag away, Yang Kai walked out again. He looked at Sassafras with a serious face and said, "What did you want to say just now?" Sassafras looked at him with hatred. His face was full of resentment, and he had the urge to vomit blood. Just now, he had prepared his lines for a long time, but before he could say them, he was interrupted by Kai Yang. At this moment, seeing him open his mouth to ask again, he couldn't wait to shout out, "Kai Yang, don't say that this young master didn't give you a chance. As long as you kneel down and kowtow to me a few times in front of all these brothers, and call me grandfather a few times, then I will spare your life." Those snorts were meaningful, and the smell of threats arose spontaneously. After saying that, Sassafras had a look of satisfaction as if he really did something to Yang Kai. Kai Yang slowly shook his head, looking at Su Mu with a pained expression. Sassafras felt a little guilty. It was mainly because Yang Kai was too calm, which made him feel a little uncertain. After all, he had suffered a loss at Yang Kai's hands in Black Plum Village, so there was a shadow in his heart. "You're unfilial." Yang Kai sighed. The onlookers were stunned, and so was Sassafras. He thought to himself, how is this unfilial? "What do you mean?" Sassafras asked fiercely. "You don't understand? Come, I'll teach you." Yang Kai acted like a kind person and said earnestly, "Let me ask you, do you have an elder in Sky Tower? At least you have some eyesight." Sassafras was so proud that his tail was about to reach the sky. Yang Kai smiled. "You came to take revenge on me with such fanfare, so naturally you have someone to rely on. If there wasn't anyone above you, how would you dare to be so presumptuous and even burn my house? This person has a lot of power in the Sky Tower, right?" Yang Kai asked again. "The position of an elder." Sassafras snorted. "I have an elder sister who is a core disciple. She can crush you with just a finger." Yang Kai suddenly understood a little about Sassafras. He patted him on the shoulder and said, "That's right, you're too unfilial." "What's right?" Sassafras was furious. He was confused by Yang Kai's words and didn't know what he was going to say. "You can't even understand such a simple thing. What's wrong with your head?" Yang Kai frowned and looked at Sassafras with pity. He patiently explained, "Your sister is my senior sister. If I really called you that, how would your sister address you? How would that elder address you? You're unfilial, very unfilial. If I were that elder, I would lock you in the coiling dragon stream today and make sure you don't come out for the rest of your life. Sassafras's body shook and his face turned pale. The coiling dragon stream was High Heaven Pavilion's most terrifying place. High Heaven Pavilion had existed for hundreds of years and had dozens of generations of disciples. There would always be some disciples who, after leaving the sect, committed heinous crimes. Once these heinous criminals were caught by the sect, their cultivation would be crippled and they would be thrown into the coiling dragon stream. Basically, entering that place was equivalent to death. The 3 words coiling dragon stream were extremely famous within a radius of a few thousand miles. It was notorious for its ferocity. Sassafras wasn't afraid of Xianxia, but when he heard these 3 words, he instinctively felt some fear. Noticing that Sassafras's state was not right, one of the people who followed him quickly stepped forward and said, "Young Master Su, this brat has a sharp tongue. Don't waste your breath on him. Today, we're here to help you vent your anger." Sassafras came back to his senses and said angrily, "Xianxia, don't talk nonsense. Today, if you don't kneel down and apologize, this young master will make you regret being born in this world." Xianxia's eyes flashed with a cold light. He clenched his fist and said, "Junior brother, you want to spar with me?" Sassafras said with disdain, "I want to, but you're not worthy. You don't have the qualifications. This young master is at tempered body 9th level." Hearing him say this, Xianxia immediately understood. The sect's rules stated that when disciples challenge each other, the difference in strength cannot exceed 3 levels. Sassafras really couldn't challenge Xianxia. The difference between the two was too big. This was also the reason why he brought people here. These people were not just here to keep up appearances. Su Mu looked at Kai Yang with contempt, the corners of his mouth curled up into a sneer. Without turning his head, he said, "Everyone, I heard that this senior brother Kai has already reached the tempered body 3rd stage. Which brother wants to go up and give him some pointers?" Tempered body 3rd level, such a high level. The crowd burst into laughter. Everyone here joined the sect later than Xianxia, but who didn't have a higher level than him? "Let me do it, young Master Su. My strength is the lowest among the brothers, but I'm only at tempered body 5th level. I should be able to play with Xianxia for a while." One of them walked through the crowd and looked at Xianxia with disdain. Xianxia looked back at him and laughed. He laughed at their outdated information. 5 days ago, he was indeed at tempered body 3rd level, but now he was different from before. However, Xianxia naturally would not spread this news. Advancing 2 levels in 5 days was a bit strange. The person that Sassafras brought said, "Brother Yang, my name is Xiaohu. You must remember who beat you up today." "I remember," Xianxia said with a serious face. Xiaohu seemed to want to give Sassafras face. He waved his little finger at Xianxia and said, "Brother Yang, don't say that I don't give you face as a junior brother. I'll give you 3 moves. If you can make me move my feet, you win. If you can't, then don't blame this junior brother for not showing you mercy." Su Mu was dazzled by Xiaohu's arrogant provocation and blatant contempt. He exclaimed in his heart that Xiaohu was really capable. He knew how to humiliate others and did a good job. Xiaohu is really capable. He knows how to humiliate others. Although there were only 2 levels between tempered body 3rd level and tempered body 5th level, there was a gap between these 2 levels. The strength that could be displayed was completely different. Chapter 22. What's more, Xianxia was currently in a sorry state. It was obvious that he had been through a lot, so how could he have any strength left to fight? In addition, his body was thin and malnourished, so it was easy for people to look down on him. Almost everyone thought that Xianxia would not be able to escape today. Even Xianxia, who was standing on a nearby tree, thought so. As a member of the Dark Hall, Xianxia had come today to record Xianxia's battle results. That's not good. How can I let junior brother go easy on me? Xianxia was a bit hesitant. There's nothing wrong with that. Xiaohu insisted. As junior brother, It's only right for me to let you have 3 moves first. Ha. Yang Kai seemed to be unwilling. Since junior brother Zhao says so, then this big brother won't be polite. Bring it on. Zhao Hu shouted. His feet were like boulders as he stood in place. His muscles bulged and blue veins popped out. Looking at the skinny Yang Kai who was walking towards him step by step, Zhao Hu sneered in his heart. He thought to himself, with your small body, I can blow you away with one breath. What kind of strength can you use? Yang Kai slowly walked in front of Zhao Hu. He raised a fist and deliberately waved it in front of Zhao Hu's eyes. He smiled and said, Junior brother Zhao, big brother is really going to fight. Come. As soon as he finished speaking, Yang Kai's fist had already smashed into Zhao Hu's chest. Boom. A muffled sound rang out. The surrounding people did not even see any trace of Yang Kai's attack. This fist had just strangely landed. Zhao Hu's face paled. His chest could not help but cave in. Boom. The second punch arrived, landing on Zhao Hu's abdomen. Zhao Hu's body suddenly bent down, only to feel a stomach acid overturn. But Yang Kai kicked Zhao Hu's chin, and Zhao Hu was sent flying. He fell to the ground, motionless. He won. It was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Everyone stared at Yang Kai in shock, their eyes filled with disbelief. Sassafras's eyes were especially wide open, almost popping out of their sockets. 2 punches and 1 kick. Zhao Hu, who was at body tempering stage level 5, was sent flying. Was this something a body tempering stage 3rd level cultivator could do? Although Zhao Hu didn't fight back from beginning to end, his strength was too great. How could a person weighing more than 50 kilograms be sent flying several feet away without any strength? Moreover, his speed was incomparably fast. Just a moment ago, Zhao Hu still had a disdainful smile on his face, but in the next moment, he was unconscious. Not only were the spectators in front of the hut unable to believe their eyes, even Xianxia, who was watching the fight from the treetop, was the same. Her booklet clearly recorded Yang Kai's battle record. In more than 2 years, he had lost 147 times without a single victory. Unexpectedly, it was rewritten today. Moreover, he won so cleanly. Xianxia was originally gracefully stepping on the branches, but in the end, she was so shocked that she couldn't recover from the Yuan Qi. Her body lightning technique was interrupted, and her body suddenly fell. With a light crash, this masked woman fell from the treetop 3 feet high. Her small butt first touched the ground, and she couldn't help but cry out in alarm. Fortunately, she was agile and her reaction was not slow. At the last moment, she borrowed some strength. Otherwise, the consequences of this fall would have been quite serious. Even so, her 2 perky buttocks were burning with pain. She tightly pursed her lips, and a layer of mist appeared in her watery eyes. Resisting the pain, she slowly stood up. Her 2 slender legs were slightly trembling. Xianxia nervously looked around. Seeing that no one had seen her, she let out a sigh of relief. If someone saw her like this, she would have lost a lot of face. Circulating her Yuan Qi to relieve the pain in her buttocks, Xianxia's eyes flashed. She really couldn't understand. How did Yang Kai's strength increase so much in just a few days? The spectators weren't very strong, so they couldn't see anything special. However, how could Xianxia's eyesight be compared to ordinary people? Just now, when Yang Kai made his move, Xianxia clearly felt the qi in his meridian stir. To be able to cultivate qi, Yang Kai was clearly at tempered body 4th level. Moreover, it seemed that Yang Kai's strength was higher than tempered body 4th level. But, didn't he just reach tempered body 3rd level a few days ago? That stinky junior brother. He actually hid his strength. Not only did he scare those people, but he also scared her so much that she fell from the tree. How hateful! Vaguely, Xianxia had already blamed the pain in her buttocks on Yang Kai. Yang Kai glanced in the direction where Xianxia was hiding. Although Xianxia's scream was short, he still heard it. However, he was a bit far away and didn't notice anything strange. He didn't think too much about it. He just frowned and looked at his fist as if he was dissatisfied. Yang Kai was indeed dissatisfied. After all, This was the first time he had sparred with someone after obtaining the unyielding golden skeleton. He didn't control his strength well and actually sent Zhao Hu flying. Originally, he only wanted to make his opponent move, but it seemed that he used more strength than expected. In the field, Sassafras was the first to recover. He pointed at Yang Kai and shouted, "You cheated!" Yang Kai looked at him calmly and said, "Junior brother, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want." "How did I cheat?" Sassafras was speechless. That's right, how did he cheat? Zhao Hu just stood there and didn't move. He arrogantly said that he would let Yang Kai make 3 moves. In the end, the other party really did use 3 moves to defeat him. How could this be considered cheating when it happened in front of so many people? How could he cheat? Young Master Su, it seems that the information is wrong. This kid's strength isn't just tempered body 3rd level. I'm afraid that he has already advanced. Otherwise, how could he beat up Zhao Hu? Some people with good eyesight saw some clues and whispered to Sassafras. "So that's how it is." Sassafras nodded. His face was gloomy. Zhao Hu was too careless. If he really fought with him, how could he be defeated? In Sassafras's opinion, Zhao Hu's defeat this time was purely due to carelessness. After all, even if Yang Kai had advanced, he was only at tempered body 4th level. There was still a gap between him and Zhao Hu. If they really fought, Yang Kai would definitely lose. "Brother Yang, you hit it well." Sassafras looked coldly at Yang Kai. He didn't get to vent his anger today. It was really uncomfortable for him to hold it in. Yang Kai didn't deny it and just shrugged his shoulders. "We have plenty of time in the future. You won't be so lucky next time." Sassafras snorted coldly and led the people back the way they came. One of his subordinates carried the unconscious Zhao Hu on his back. Before he left, he gave Yang Kai a hateful glare. This grudge was really formed. Yang Kai didn't care. After all, the sect had its own rules. If they wanted to find trouble with him, they had to challenge him. Moreover, he needed someone to test his cultivation. Otherwise, he wouldn't know how much he had grown. With this thought in mind, Yang Kai felt that it was a blessing to have made a feud with Sassafras. Today's battle was really not satisfying. Sigh, Yang Kai was a little unsatisfied. After Su Mu left, the excitement was over. The crowd of onlookers naturally dispersed, but many people still felt as if they were in a dream. The trial disciple Kai Yang, who had not tasted a single victory in over 2 years, had actually won today. Although there was an element of trickery involved, it was still a victory. Chapter 23. This matter caused an uproar among the ordinary disciples who were watching the battle. If it weren't for Su Mu's identity, perhaps everyone would have rushed to spread the news and spread it. But because this matter was related to Sassafras, the crowd was tactful and didn't dare to spread the news. They could only keep today's matter in their stomachs. It was finally quiet in front of the hut. Looking at the sky, Yang Kai was a bit depressed. Today, he was delayed by Sassafras and missed the time to practice the tempered body technique. He couldn't help but say it was a pity. After returning to the hut and taking out his last set of clothes, Yang Kai ran to the side of the small pond and took off his tattered clothes, preparing to take a bath. These days, he had been wandering around in the mountains and fought with the flowerback spider, so there was a strange smell on his body. Xianxia stealthily approached the hut. She wanted to see what realm this junior brother of hers was at. Because she was too far away, she wasn't able to see clearly. However, there wasn't anyone in the hut. Circling to the back of the hut, Xianxia swept her eyes around. What came into her eyes was 2 shining white buttocks. Moving her eyes up, she saw that Kai Yang had already taken off all his clothes and was currently in a diving posture. Xianxia's little face turned red. Although she was very strong, she was still a young girl. Not to mention buttocks, she hadn't even seen a man's thighs. How could she bear to see such a scene? It was too exciting. Xianxia's heart thumped and she quickly hid her body. Why was she so fated with that place today? The poor girl's tears were about to fall. How could she care about prying into Yang Kai's secret? She stomped her feet and disappeared in a flash. this stinky junior brother, he dared to be so unrestrained in such an important place. He was naked in broad daylight. He was too shameless, too shameless. In the pond, young Kai was bathing while checking his body. He realized that ever since he started practicing the tempered body technique, his muscles had become much stronger. Although he was still skinny, he was skinnier than before. Furthermore, the wound on his abdomen from yesterday's battle with the flowerback spider had already scabbed over. Only the wound on his arm, where the flowerback spider had pierced through him, still hurt faintly. After all, it was a penetrating wound, so it was impossible for it to heal so quickly. However, it was not as serious as he had imagined. It seemed that he would only need a few more days to fully recover. Recalling the life and death battle yesterday, young Kai was a little excited. He didn't know why, but the more dangerous the situation was, the more motivated he became. He wasn't like this in the first place. Could it be that he subconsciously had masochistic tendencies that only awakened after living for more than 10 years? Thinking of this, young Kai quickly sank into the pond and held his breath for a long time before popping his head out. Although he had a lot of things to do, young Kai still took a broom to sweep the floor after he finished bathing and putting on his clothes. After all, this was a job in High Heaven Pavilion. Since he had accepted this job, he had to treat it seriously. While sweeping the floor, young Kai clearly felt that many of his brothers were looking at him strangely, full of doubt. Presumably, these people had seen the commotion in the morning and didn't understand how he had been able to knock out Zhao Hu. Young Kai calmly continued to work. After sweeping the floor, young Kai returned to the wooden house and opened his bag. He took out the 3-leaved Chaos Spirit Flower and dead Jedi tree grass he needed and put the rest back. Young Kai had no use for these remaining herbs, so he could sell them to the contribution hall for some contribution points. Grabbing the bag, Kai Yang was just about to go out, but after thinking for a bit, he changed back into the blood-stained clothes and painted his face. Only then did he rush out. In the contribution hall, Old Man Meng was sitting behind the counter with a teapot in his hand. He was leisurely sipping his tea while humming a little song. Suddenly, a shadow flashed by the doorway. Old Man Meng weakly raised his head to look. Just as he was about to scold the bastard who didn't open his eyes and came to disturb this old man's peace so early in the morning, he saw Kai Yang walk in. His tattered clothes couldn't cover up his body at all. His 2 thighs were faintly discernible and the fine hairs on his legs were clearly visible. The 2 female High Heaven Pavilion disciples who were passing by saw this scene and cried out in alarm, covering their faces and retreating in shame. What kind of mental strength did Treasurer Meng have? He had climbed a mountain of blades, entered a sea of fire, piled a mountain of corpses, yet his expression didn't change. He had slaughtered 10 cities with ease, yet at this moment he had spat out a mouthful of tea. Little young Kai, what are you doing? Old Man Meng hurriedly stood up and stared dumbfoundedly at young Kai. Young Kai rushed to the counter and took a deep breath. I'm back. You must have suffered a lot, right? Treasurer Meng couldn't help but feel pity for Kai Yang. A few days ago, when Kai Yang had left his place, he was still fine. He didn't expect that after just one trip to Black Wind Mountain, he would become like this. Looking like neither a human nor a ghost, it was simply too tragic. Yes, it was a bit dangerous. Young Kai nodded and didn't waste any more words. He quickly opened the bag and pointed at the pile of herbs inside, but the harvest was not bad. Treasurer Meng, do you want to accept these herbs in the contribution hall? Treasurer Meng took a look and frowned. These were only common-level low-level herbs. They didn't have much value. There were many of these herbs in the contribution hall. Even if he accepted them, there would be no place to put them. Just as he was about to refuse, Treasurer Meng saw young Kai looking at him with a face full of expectation. Looking at his clothes, Treasurer Meng's heart softened and he nodded. Okay, I'll accept them. Every 2 herbs will be exchanged for 1 contribution point. Then you take a look. Young Kai didn't haggle and pushed the bag forward. Treasurer Meng took a look and found a total of 32 herbs, a total of 16 contribution points. He immediately recorded Young Kai's account. You ran around Blackwind Mountain for 3 days and you only got these? Treasurer Meng casually asked. Being able to obtain this much is already quite good. While Kai Yang was speaking, he also looked around furtively. Cough cough, it's not bad. Old man Meng couldn't bear to hurt Yang Kai. After all, he also knew about Yang Kai's difficult situation. This kid's aptitude wasn't good, but he was willing to work hard. There weren't many young people who could endure hardships like him. Unfortunately, his aptitude was his weakness and he was destined to not have much success in this life. Just as he was lamenting in his heart, Treasurer Meng saw Yang Kai looking around and couldn't help but ask, "What are you looking at?" Yang Kai mysteriously leaned forward and whispered, "Treasurer Meng, this time when I entered the mountain, I seem to have found an incredible thing." Seeing Yang Kai so cautious, Treasurer Meng knew that this incredible thing wasn't ordinary. His expression became serious and he whispered back, "What is it?" "I don't know. Didn't I bring it back so you can help me take a look? You're experienced and knowledgeable, so you should be able to recognize it." As Yang Kai spoke, he reached behind his butt and took out a bag and gently placed it on the counter. Chapter 24. Treasurer Meng looked at Yang Kai and saw that Yang Kai's face was filled with anticipation and nervousness. He couldn't help but become cautious as he gently opened the package and looked inside. It was about the size of a bowl and was dark red in color. It looked like a mushroom or a Ganoderma lucidum, and its shape was not bad. Cough, cough, cough. Treasurer Meng couldn't help but lightly cough a few times. Yang Kai nervously looked at him and softly asked, "What is this thing?" Treasurer Meng looked at him strangely and didn't answer. Instead, he asked, "Where did you find this?" "In a cave. There was a Class 1 demonic beast guarding it. In the end, it was killed by me. Only then was I able to harvest it." Treasurer Meng's heart jumped. "You encountered a monster beast? Didn't I tell you not to go too deep?" "I didn't go too deep. I don't know how it ended up in the outskirts of Black Wind Mountain." Yang Kai felt wronged. Treasurer Meng couldn't help but sigh, thinking that the reason why this brat ended up like this was because he had fought with that monstrous beast. With his strength, even if it was only a first-grade monstrous beast, it definitely wouldn't have been easy to deal with. How pitiful! At such a young age, he had toiled for 3 days in the Black Wind Mountain range to earn a mere 16 contribution points. Furthermore, he had to fight against a level 1 demonic beast and narrowly escape death. If he were to find out about this was not appropriate, this was too hurtful. Forget it, this old man rarely does good deeds, so I'll just treat it as accumulating good karma. Yang Kai saw that Treasurer Meng's expression was dignified, but he still didn't answer. He couldn't help but become anxious. Just as he was about to ask again, Treasurer Meng took a sip of tea, smacked his lips, and squeezed out a smile. "You little brat, your luck is pretty good." Hearing this answer, Yang Kai's anxious heart immediately relaxed. He was really worried that this thing wasn't worth a single cent. That would be a big joke. "Treasurer Meng, what is this thing? How many contribution points is it worth?" Yang Kai rubbed his hands in anticipation. "Oh, this thing is called blood lingji mushroom. It's a rare medicinal ingredient, an ordinary." Before Treasurer Meng could finish, he saw the disappointment on Yang Kai's face and hurriedly changed his words. No, it's an earth-grade low-grade medicinal ingredient. It's an earth-grade low-grade medicinal ingredient. That's right." His tone was so firm that Treasurer Meng almost believed it himself. "Earth-level low-grade?" Yang Kai was pleasantly surprised. "Treasurer Meng, are you sure you're not mistaken?" Treasurer Meng's face stiffened. What a joke, this old man has spent his entire life reading women. Cough cough, I mean reading countless medicines. I have developed a pair of discerning eyes, how could I possibly be wrong? How many contribution points can I exchange for? Yang Kai was only interested in this. I'll give you 20 points. So little. Yang Kai was a little disappointed. He had thought that this item would be considered a low-level item and would at least cost a few dozen contribution points. That's quite a lot, kid. Treasurer Meng thought to himself, this is free, how can I give you so much? But he still found a reason. Although this blood lingji mushroom is an earth-grade low-grade medicinal ingredient, its size is small and its age is not high, so it's only worth 20 points. Yang Kai didn't refute and straightforwardly said, "Then I'll give you 20 points." Treasurer Meng nodded and recorded it in his account. This time, excluding the 3-leaved Chaos Spirit Flower and Dead Jedi Tree Grass that he needed, he had a total of 36 contribution points. Adding the contribution points he had saved before, he now had a total of 48 contribution points. Yang Kai suddenly felt that he had become somewhat rich and overbearing. Although he could obtain contribution points by going into the mountains to gather medicinal ingredients, it would also delay his cultivation time. Moreover, he also had to rely on his luck, so it felt like he was putting the cart before the horse. Although he was excited, Yang Kai decided that in the future, unless he had no other choice, he wouldn't do such a thing. The purpose of accumulating contribution points was to cultivate, so Yang Kai was still able to distinguish between the two, so he didn't let the harvest this time go to his head. He currently had a lot of 3-leaved Chaos Spirit Flowers. In the end, he had collected 30 to 40 stalks of 3-leaved Chaos Spirit Flowers in the cave, but the amount of Dead Jedi Tree Grass was very small, only 5 to 6 stalks. If he really wanted to use them for cultivation, he was afraid that they wouldn't be enough. He would have to exchange for some from the contribution hall, just in case. After making up his mind, Yang Kai said, "Treasurer Meng, give me 10 stalks of Dead Jedi Tree Grass." Old Man Meng glanced at him. Although he was puzzled as to why Yang Kai wanted them, he didn't ask. He only calmly looked at Yang Kai and said, 10 stalks of common-grade low-grade herbs for 10 contribution points. Are you sure you want them? Yang Kai frowned and suspiciously said, "That's not right, didn't you just say 2 stalks of herbs for 1 contribution point? The charging price is the charging price. The selling price is the selling price. They are not the same." Treasurer Meng's smile was particularly brilliant, and a thick smell of profiteering spontaneously emerged. Yang Kai angrily pointed at Old Man Meng's nose and said, "You are completely profiteering, taking advantage of the difference in price. This is too shameful. Has your conscience been eaten by a dog?" Old Man Meng waved his hand and said, "This is not me profiteering. This is the price set by the sect. It has nothing to do with me. All the goods in the contribution hall are clearly marked with a price. This old man is only responsible for looking after the sect. Otherwise, how do you think the sect is going to support your 3,000 disciples?" Yang Kai was stunned, but when he thought about it, doing business was all about making money. In such a big high heaven pavilion, if they didn't have some means, how could their 3,000 disciples survive? Although this was indeed a case of taking advantage of the difference in price, no one was forcing you to buy or sell. Then do you still want the Dead Jedi Tree Grass? Treasurer Meng saw Yang Kai's pained expression and his mood immediately improved. Yang Kai clenched his teeth. Sooner or later he would need it. Since he didn't want to go into the mountains to pick herbs, then he could only buy it here. Treasurer Meng turned around and went to the back of the hall. Not long after, he came back with 10 stalks of Dead Jedi Tree Grass. Yang Kai counted them while Treasurer Meng recorded down the accounts. After eating a loss, Yang Kai was somewhat unhappy, so he took the herbs and turned around to leave. "Come back often when you have time." Treasurer Meng warmly called out from behind. "Come often so you can take advantage of me." Yang Kai finally understood how his nickname of Treasurer Meng came about. 3 steps turned into 2 steps. Kai Yang hurriedly rushed out. Just as he was about to reach the door, a figure flashed in from the outside, almost colliding with Kai Yang. The two people's reactions were quite fast. Yang Kai suddenly stopped, and the other person also stopped. A refreshing fragrance blew in his face. Looking up, Yang Kai saw a pair of bright moon-like eyes staring at him, but he couldn't see the face, because this person was actually wearing a veil. This was a woman, although her face couldn't be seen clearly, but judging from the color of her skin, she shouldn't be very old, so she should be his senior sister. Yang Kai nodded at her, slightly apologetic, and then moved aside half of his body, indicating that she should come in first. Unexpectedly, after being stunned for a moment, the other person's ears suddenly turned red, and she looked at his eyes evasively. Yang Kai saw this and thought that this senior sister was quite shy, so he quickly looked away, so as not to offend her. Xia Ningchang was embarrassed to death. She never thought that she would meet Yang Kai at the entrance of the contribution hall. As soon as she saw this person's face, Xia Ningchang thought of her own. Then she thought of his. In an instant, Xia Ningchang's face turned red, and her ears became hot. She hurriedly flashed into the room, not daring to raise her head. Yang Kai thought it was a bit funny. Such a timid woman was rare, and there were many female disciples in Sky Tower Pavilion, but those who practiced martial arts were generally more open-minded, unlike her, who just blushed when he looked at her. No wonder she was wearing a veil. This senior sister was quite cute, but why did he feel that her fragrance was somewhat familiar, as if he had smelled it before? Welcome to Legends of Cultivation, audiobooks, where we bring ancient fantasy to life through storytelling. Follow the rise of heroes who defy fate, unlock mystical powers, and battle across celestial realms. Our audiobooks are crafted for fans of Chinese cultivation novels, filled with battles, breakthroughs, and legendary artifacts. Subscribe and be part of an unforgettable journey into the realm of immortality.